In this segment, I'm going to talk about looking at various eBay auctions and kind of sharing with you what it occurs to me. We can take a look at some stuff on eBay and see, are there some good deals here, or are there some things you should stay away from? So I'll just share my initial opinions. You can let me know what you think in the comments. First up is this cast iron Dutch oven, 12 inches, used in good condition. It's actually ending in less than 2 hours, and the high bid is $13.50, which does not bode well for this thing. The shipping is more than what the high bid is. If we take a look at it, it looks kind of interesting, you know? It's kind of an interesting pot, but there's a couple of things about it that I think are worrisome. I think this is some kind of custom-made piece. I don't necessarily think that it's as old as it might appear to be, and the reason for that is this lid here. First off, it looks like it was there's something spot welded onto it. So that's a newer technology than cast iron. A couple of other things that trouble me about it is the shape of it. It's almost like it's a cauldron for smelting. You see how it's got this very big pour spout. I would be very concerned about this being contaminated with lead or some other stuff. Another thing I notice is that the legs down here appear to be welded onto it and not part of the original thing. There's not a whole lot of pictures. There's not a picture of the underside, so you can see if there's any gate marks or anything. But there's enough there to let you know. It could be that the pot is older than the legs and that the lid might have been something else, although you do have these holes, which is unorthodox, where somebody's drilled into them and added a bale through the actual thing. Everything about this auction tells me stay away. It's probably not as old as you think. It could be contaminated. So there's that. Now let's take a look at something else. So here we have vintage Griswold cast iron number 8 skillet, used condition, rusty surface. There's only 3 pictures of the item. 1, 2, 3. That's it. There's not really anything where you can get an idea of the depth of the pitting or rust here. And this thing has obviously been going on, and the high bid is $26 and it's $18.45 shipping. So right now it's close to $50. Probably maybe even more than $50, including tax. What I don't like about it is it's a small block logo, so it's not even a particularly valuable thing, and now it's already at $50. I'm not sure how much you could get for this restored. I don't even know, depending upon the market, it might be worth $50 restored if it's in good condition. It might be worth $75 or $80. But number 8 is the absolute most common skillet, aside from possibly the 3s or 5s, but this is the main skillet. You know, it's going to be, and as rusty as it is, and look how bad the pictures are. They're very low resolution. The seller does take returns though, but I can't even imagine wanting to take a chance on this, because even if you do returns, you're probably out the shipping and you're going to lose money. And I just don't think I like to see skillets where there's a reasonable amount of seasoning that's left, that's formed a protective barrier over the pan. In this, I don't see anything. I just see rust on the pan. So this is probably seriously pitted, and I've gotten burned so many times now that I don't mess with it. But I will say this: I do like getting unrestored pans. I prefer them to restored pans, because I never know if somebody used an e-tank with stainless steel in it as the anodes, and I'm a big proponent of avoiding that because it creates this toxic sludge of hexavalent chromium, which is significantly worse than lead. It's not something that I would want touching any pan that I would ever cook and eat out of. So I much prefer to do restoration myself. And this is another one that I would pass on. Poor pictures, and the bid is already much higher than I think it's even worth. So there's some bad deals out here, and this is one of them. Now here's an interesting skillet. This is a Waypack Indian head skillet number 12, a large size that's very sought after. 2.5 days left, and it's currently at $162. Right now, that's a good price for this, but obviously it does have some condition issues. You can see the Indian has kind of been partially damaged by sulfur pitting. Now, I don't consider to be sulfur pitting to really be to significantly mess with the value of a pan. I think it gives it legitimacy because that means it's been cooked over coal, and that's, it's just a sign of age, and this is an authenticity. But when you have a skillet like this, where the main value is this Indian head mark, the clearer the Indian head is, the more value the pan has. It'll have a base value just because it's a great pan, but you can see this one is pretty messed up from sulfur pitting. Now, I bought one of these recently at a thrift store. I think it was a number 7, and it had sulfur pitting that had messed up the Indian like this. I think I've got it in my booth maybe for 50 or 75 bucks. I don't, if that Indian head was really nice and crisp, it probably would be a $200 or $300 pan. So this is one of those situations where the clarity of that Indian head really carries a lot of the extra value. If the pan, and this pan looks pretty nice otherwise, and the inside is really pretty. Look at that. I don't see any major problems, but if you want to complete your set, and this would be one you might want to get if you're not concerned about it being absolutely perfect. If you're a big fan of this particular series, it's not a bad deal if you don't mind this. Now, how high will it go eventually? It could go $300 or $400 even in this condition. I've been slowly compiling lists of completed auctions, trying to get a general vibe, but I've also noticed that the market really does deviate quite a bit. Sometimes stuff will sell for significantly less than it did the week before. So I think this is a volatile, soft market right now. I hate to even call it a market like it's an investment, but obviously some people are looking at it like this, and I kind of look at my purchases as being something that hopefully I could get out of if I wanted to. But there's this. Obviously, if you are buying skillets, vintage skillets, as an investment, your best investment situation is going to be to get something that is as perfect as possible. These damaged ones are probably not going to hold their value as well. If the market continues to go up, everything will go up. But if the market, I really do think in terms of cast iron pans, I think there's a limit to how valuable this market can be. Obviously, there's certain grail pans that will always continue to go up as long as there's a collectible market. But look at the Beanie Baby market. That market kind of dropped out, and even the top stuff, the values of stuff plummeted. But there's still a few hardcore collectors out there that might want some of the rare stuff. I think personally, like comic books would have become largely worthless now if it weren't for all of the superhero movies. If something happens and revitalizes the market, then it can continue to grow. So this is a neat old pan, and if you are into it. But if you want something as an investment, you want something that's really going to be super, new. This is probably not it. Now, here's something to take a look at. This, I think, might be a potentially fraudulent eBay listing, but I don't think, you can really do much about it. I don't think eBay really cares that much. So you see we have here cast iron cornbread pan, season 1920s USA. Current bid is $10.50 with $11.71 shipping. And you'll notice here it says pre-owned Griswold. So it's in a category that has Griswold with it, but this is not a Griswold pan. This is a Lodge pan, and we know it's a Lodge because of the holes at the end. This is one of two designs they had with the slot, and they had with the single hole. And also, Lodges, all the cornbreads faced one direction, whereas a lot of the Griswolds and the Wagners, they alternated. The stock was at one end here, and the stock was at one end there. This is a Lodge pan, and there's no way that it was made probably in the 20s. It was probably made anytime from the 50s and 60s to maybe the present day, for all I know. For all I know, Lodge could still be making these. I haven't seen very many of the cornbread pans with the Lodge logo on it. So this is currently at basically $22, including shipping, which I think is overvalued for something that is so common. I think whoever is bidding on this thinks it's a Griswold, and it's not a Griswold. And it doesn't say Griswold here, but it did. You notice that it did say it here in the listing underneath that. So there may be some kind of category. Let's scroll down and see what it says. Yeah, look, brand Griswold. That is not a Griswold. So that's fraudulent. That's not a Griswold. So you got to be careful. This thing should not even sell. If the starting bid was like $5, and it was a Lodge, with $11, $12 shipping, I don't even think anybody would buy it. These things can be gotten all over the place for $10 to $15, all over the place, in good condition. For all I know, they go for $15 new. I don't know if Lodge is still making these, but there's 8 bazillion of them out there. So again, pay attention. Some people are mislabeling and misidentifying what these things are. I want to thank everybody for tuning in and enjoying the video series and supporting me thus far by subscribing and clicking like and all of that. And if you want to catch me on TikTok, sometimes I have previews of what I'm working on that I haven't published lately. That's at TikTok/@WisdomStudio. And if you're on Facebook, look up the group Vintage Cast Iron Hunting, Restoration, Identification, and Sales. And until next time.